Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. And today we are doing another comedy movie. It's called Mr. Deed Goes to Town.
Mr. Deeds.
Mr. Deeds. And it stars Gary Cooper and Jean Arthur. It's a Frank Capra directed movie. It was made in 1934. It's in black and white. I thought it was pretty good. I've never seen it before.
I thought it was solid. It was like it's kind of like one of those movies where, it's not amazing, but then again, it's not bad. Like, it's pretty good. And, we'll talk about the story. I would just say that, for me, the movie kind of got weak in the last third. Because we talk about the big reveal scene in movies and crappy movies, and we talk about the sad period. Well, this movie has like a 30 to 40 minute sad period.
Yeah, it does. It goes on and on. I was wondering what's going to happen.
And then all of a sudden, it's like the guy switches back, and it's like, oh yeah, finally. But in all fairness, it is very satisfying at the end because he basically, there's like 20 minutes of him just roasting people.
Yeah, it was great. And he also punched the lights out of somebody who was being a jackass.
Yeah.
And so Frank Capra is the one who did It's a Wonderful Life, which I know most people are familiar with and have watched, even though it's an older movie and it's in black and white. And it doesn't contain either one of these actors, and I don't know if it contains any of the other actors who were in this movie. We also just watched You Can't Take It With You, and that was another Frank Capra movie, and that was in our comedy, part of our comedy movie watching week. So, I thought it was a pretty good movie, and I agree with Marco about that last part, because it really got down to the wire. And it's about this small town guy. He plays the tuba and he writes poetry for these old postcards that you see that people collect. And there are some really good things. And he might have even done greeting cards. I'm not for sure. Because greeting cards, they've been around a long time, but I think the postcards are the one, because they were very cheap to mail, and they've been going through a depression, and so that's what you would pick, a penny postcard with a penny postage or something. So anyway, that's what he did. He lives in this small town. Everybody knows everybody else, and so all of a sudden one day these people come and they say, "Oh, your relative," and they show the accident too. The guy was going really fast.
Well, the footage was sped up in like a comedic way.
Okay, well, because I was going to say those cars don't really go that fast.
Yeah.
One of those old cars, and what he did, he ran off the bridge. It was his uncle. And so anyway, this guy, Mr. Deeds, he didn't know this uncle, but he was the benefactor of what, how much money? $20 million?
Millions and millions of dollars.
$20 million. And this is what he said. Because when he found out these lawyers came from New York, and New York is fast. It's the East Coast. And they're blah, 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 blah. Some of the time, they're talking so fast. Their life is fast. They want a quick answer. They want quick everything. And then they go to the small town. They're like, yeah, let's take our time, and we're easygoing. But anyway, this is what Mr. Deeds says. This is the only quote I wrote. "I wonder why he left me all that money. I don't need it." And they're astounded. And we find out later that they've been cooking the books, and they're going to be short on their books, on their money.
Yeah.
And so they right away, when they take him back to New York, and the whole town sends him off.
Well,
Everybody.
I think it's funny because, I guess now that we've seen a couple of Frank Capra's movies, we notice that there's like a theme of like money isn't important. Because like this, the last movie, you had the whole thing with like the bad guy, he's this rich guy and, he just wants more money, more money, more money, and he doesn't really need it. And in this movie, the main character reluctantly gets all this money and he feels like he doesn't need it. So I guess that was like a central part of why Frank Capra liked making movies. Right, Safi?
Well, I think people, if you think back in, they're going through a depression, and all they're thinking about is trying to feed their families and have a roof over their heads. And, in the winter, have enough coal, because I think that's what they had back then, that's it, to warm the house.
Yeah.
And houses. And, he's trying to make people feel good about being a have-not in this time of the world, and but still be optimistic that things are going to get better.
Yeah.
So basically, I think that's what it appeals to.
And this is more of a feel-good movie. There is the sad period, and it's not that it's sad. It's that they want to make it sad, and it's just kind of like, it keeps going and going and going.
Well, he's very good. He's not a country bumpkin. Maybe I made it sound like that, but he's very smart, and he right away when he gets there, he figures out that most everybody just wants something from him, and they're trying to screw him over. And he's really good at figuring that out, or they want to make fun of him.
Except there's this one person, and she's a girl, and
Arthur,
and she does not wear suspenders in this movie.
No,
unfortunately, Safi.
She doesn't ride down the banister either, but he does.
Yeah, he does. So that's another thing that Frank Capra likes to put in his movies. And
Which
so
I think back when I was younger, that was a thing. And I think it still is. Don't they do that in Home Alone?
It's still a thing. It's a thing that you see in movies and things. It's not as common anymore. Like they don't really do that.
House with the railing.
You have to have a specific railing. You have to, and they just don't do that anymore.
No.
Everything looks like shit in the houses.
Well, it's sterile,
and
modern, and bleh. Anyway, so the only person he doesn't see who's fooling him is this girl, Jean Arthur, and she is a Pulitzer-winning prize reporter for this newspaper. And she's been asked to do a story, or to do a story, or many stories on him, and she pretends like she's weak and she's been walking all day, she just got a job, and well, anyway, she's fooling him for all this time, but she finds out what he's really about. She falls in love with him, and she realizes he's a real good person.
And then she feels she feels bad, and we don't need to go through the movie. And
no,
so
she's
but
the only one that didn't figure out right away.
You're still doing it.
Okay.
And so I would say that nowadays the story would seem cliche, for sure. For like you have a good character, and everyone thinks he's bad or something. And then you have, like, the female character, the love interest, and then she thinks he's bad, too, and she kind of plays around with him, but then she realizes he's good, and so she has to change her tune and get on his side by the end. And so this is kind of like a story to me that's been done before now, like, in many different ways. Like, I don't think it's a very unique story. But I think that the way that the story is told is what's really good. is like the acting is all really good, and it's just a solid movie. Like it's something where you want to see what happens.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's good. I don't know what else to say, though. I mean, there's the big courtroom thing.
Well,
that goes on and on and on.
Well, he decides
oh, God.
that he's going to give all these farmers land and some seed and, I don't know, a couple of, like a horse and a cow or something. And because he wants to just give his money away. And, of course, that lawyer, the people who initially came there to his town, they want that money. And so they act like this is almost, well, like a miracle on 34th Street. They try to make him as crazy and to lock him up. And he finds out about that girl, who she really is. He gets all depressed, and he has a sanity hearing, and he won't talk. Now, he's been sad for a while, and
he is literally so sad.
He won't talk.
That he just stares into space.
And he won't even get a lawyer to represent himself.
And I thought that was hilarious because like it was so like goofy, like the way that like. The guy, this other guy would go into his room, and he's just sitting there staring into space.
Yeah, he was very upset about the girl because he had trusted her so much, and she was going to tell him, but this guy who's been hanging around with him the whole time, he found out who she really was, and he told her, and then he felt bad for telling him. But anyway, so the whole. Like Marco said, it was like the last maybe third of the movie. He's depressed about the girl. He's depressed about all these people. They had the sanity hearing, and they go through. I mean, you're talking about the last, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the movie. He's not saying anything. That the people, I guess what was weird too, they didn't have a gavel. Everybody has a gavel. This guy just pounded his fist on the desk. The people, three people who were deciding whether he was going to be locked up in a mental institution. And every time he had to tell, people to be quiet or whatever, he'd just pound on the desk. I didn't like that. I thought that was stupid. That was the only thing I really did not like.
Why?
I did not, and I don't understand it.
Why?
Because it just doesn't make sense.
It's an informal hearing.
It doesn't matter. They should have a gavel. Everybody should have a gavel. God, come on.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh, I did. It was it stuck out like a sore thumb.
I'm surprised that you weren't busy staring at Jean Arthur.
Oh, give me a break. Well, she got mad because they wouldn't let her talk, and she finally said, and he said, the judge or whatever these people are, they said she could, so she did, and she says she loves him, and he's the most honest man she's ever met, and that she'd quit her job.
Safi, you're still going through the whole movie. Nobody cares.
So he finally, after that,
you're still doing
I'm
it.
talking the last 10 minutes, he snaps out of it.
When are you going to review the movie, though?
And stands up for himself.
When are you going to actually review the movie?
And I thought it was a really good movie.
Finally.
I liked the movie because
Took you 13
it was
minutes.
funny. And the characters are good and they're solid. And the story, there's a full story, but like we said, that last part was a little bit dragged out.
Well, let's talk about your choice in comedies, because, Safi, this has been one of the weirdest months that has ever been done on this channel.
Well, I don't like
and it just goes to show this impersonal touch of these movies aren't even comedies. I mean, this wasn't a comedy.
It was considered a comedy. What are you talking about?
You Can't Take It With You wasn't a comedy. It was more of a comedy than this, but it was not a comedy. 21 Jump Street was a comedy. Did we review? And then Being There. Oh, God. Being There was not a comedy, but it had a couple of funny moments.
No, it wasn't very comical.
If you could keep
awake,
if you could keep awake and not fall asleep.
It's more like a short story. I asked Marco. We read all these Goosebumps books, Slappy books, and they're like 177 pages, around about that figure, and that's how long that book being there is.
Now, Safi,
So,
when you are allowed to pick movies for the channel, they have to have something in common.
well, they do.
They have to be
actually.
comedies. 21 Jump Street was a comedy.
Well, I don't know. I went through some list and just picked stuff out, and then I had to find out whether they were even available to watch. And so I took all that and then I wanted to get movies that I'd never seen before. So that was another thing. And I've never seen any of these movies before. I'd never seen 21 Jump Street either. And I know a couple of other really modern movies that are comedies. But I've seen them. And I don't want to do something I want to do something that's like a discovery. I like to do that.
But you have to discover something that's actually a comedy. This movie.
It says they're comedies.
Well, let's talk
I
about.
wouldn't have even picked them out.
Let's talk about the comedy in this movie then. There is some humor over the main guy. He's a tuba player, of all things. Even you can sit. The tuba is like an ugly instrument, and you think like really only ugly people play the tuba, like ugly big people.
Well, you have to be. The tuba weighs. It's heavier than any other instrument, and then you add those hard cases with it, and it makes it even worse. And I know this because both of my sons were in band.
But this is a slender leading man, and he likes to play the tuba.
And he's tall and gangly.
I guess that's kind of funny. I didn't laugh. I think I laughed about 2 times in this whole movie. And so that's what I mean is that like it's really not a comedy. It's like a light drama / comedy, I guess. But like another thing is like he gets drunk and he goes on a bender. And I guess it's funny because like they didn't really show a lot of this stuff in movies back then, because it was like inappropriate to show or something, and so I guess like that was also supposed to be funny, but I didn't really think it was very funny at all. I thought that You Can't Take It With You was a lot funnier.
Well, he had never been drunk before, so
Yeah.
he never, in fact, he doesn't really drink, I don't think.
It could have been a lot funnier, though, the way that, I mean, this movie, it went hard on the messaging and the drama. And the emphasis on how you don't need money unless you actually need it. Well, like all the farmers, they needed money. Safi?
Well, what happened was, I know
Oh,
Mark was
God.
going to have a fit. They wanted him to have a party at his house. And it was just all these people who wanted to make fun of him. And he kicked them all out. Well, outside of the house, I guess were some poor people. And one guy had lost his farm. And this guy had found out about the girl, and he just wanted to go home. And so he's getting ready to go home. He comes out, he starts coming down the stairs, and this farmer comes to the door. He comes in and says, "You're having this party and with all this food, and I'm out here. I've lost my farm. My family's starving. I don't know what's going to happen to us and where we're going." And so it knocked him, like to his senses. So that's why he stayed there. He developed this program, and then people thought, "Oh, he's crazy, this lawyer," because they want the money. They don't want anybody else to have it. And that's why they were saying he's crazy, because who would give all their money away unless they're crazy? So that was what that was all about. And they were all there, all the people he had already met with to sign them up for this program. All these people who had lost their place, their farm, and, getting on and asking for this chance, these farm animals, the seed, the plow, the land, and
Safi, I think I'm falling asleep.
oh, anyway, So that's what this was. That's what they're out in the audience for, and that's when they're all. And so everybody's making fun of him because he got drunk. So that's a bad thing. So what, he should be put in the nut house for being drunk and going on a bender and doing crazy things. Did he hurt anybody? No. And then for wanting to give his money away, because he said, I read the quote. Why did he get that money? He said he didn't need it. And he didn't. He was happy the way he was and what he was doing. So it is messaging, I suppose, mostly about messaging. It's just all the little things along the way that are funny. I just thought it was a really good movie.
It was pretty good.
And, It's a Wonderful Life is not a comedy. Of course,
They don't call that a comedy, though.
They call it what do they call it?
Drama. Holiday drama.
Holiday drama.
A little bit of comedy.
Nah.
Mostly in how bad it is.
It's not bad.
Shut up. And so, well, I would also say that, like, in thinking about that, nowadays, there's a lot of people who would be put in court if this is what it took for you to be put on trial. Like, that Cara Delevingne girl for American Horror Story.
Yeah.
I showed Safi her tunnel that she has in her house, the gross female anatomy decoration that she has, and just for that, she would be put on trial in this movie. So, like, that's another thing, is that I guess, like, the stuff that he does isn't as shocking as, something that people would do nowadays, because nowadays, I mean, people do this kind of stuff, too, with, like, giving away money. There's YouTubers, they give away money constantly, if they're good. But, like, yeah, I guess it's just, it's a good movie, though. I mean, a lot of people, when they talk about 30s movies and 40s movies, they associate, like, a negative connotation to them. Like, there was this one woman on Twitter, I think it was a couple of years ago, and she did this really ignorant video or something where she was making fun of 40s movies and just saying that they were all about, like, women being forced to be housewives or something. Just a completely ignorant statement. And, like, literally everyone in the replies just roasted her and told her how much of an idiot she was.
Well, I mean, look at this movie.
Yeah.
The main character was a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter.
Yeah, and so, like, apparently there weren't any strong women in horror and movies or anything back then, but, this female character is very, very strong. And so, like, I don't understand that. It's like, there's just no actual... these people live in complete delusion who like to, these agenda people. But, yeah, I like the movie. I would watch it again. I would say that it's my least favorite movie of Frank Capra's that I've seen so far. But then again, I also think It's a Wonderful Life is a wonderful piece of shit. So...
Marco!
Well, I haven't finished it, but I don't want to finish it. It's like, no. No thanks. Or jump off a cliff. Safi?
I don't know what else to say.
Why not? Say something about Jean Arthur. Like, because I guess we know you have an obsession with her. Why didn't you just make it...
No, I don't.
Why didn't you
she
just
happens to be in the movie.
Oh,
she wasn't
okay.
in It's a Wonderful Life.
She just happens
Donna
to be there.
Donna Reed was in It's a Wonderful Life.
She just happens to be there.
Yeah.
Oh.
I just happened to pick these movies.
You just
here.
happened to pick the
maybe
two
we should-
movies with Jean Arthur.
Maybe we should mention, too, that Adam Sandler made a remake of this movie,
Well, that
which shocked me.
yeah.
Marco can tell more about that.
Well, it's really funny because I will be reviewing that movie at some point, and I never thought Adam Sandler would do a remake of something, and so I saw Mr. Deeds. I've seen that title over and over again over the years.
Yeah.
And it's only today that I've discovered that he remade this movie. Like, what the fuck? Like, ew. Ew. Just gross.
And this movie, it didn't need to be remade, really, unless they wanted to cut some of that.
Well, I mean, actually, I think it could have used like maybe no, I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it was good the way it was.
I mean, the thing is that I don't know if people from nowadays are going to be able to appreciate it very much, because if I am pretty, like, if I say it's pretty good, but I have my criticisms, like, the people who are, like, Marvel fans, they won't be able to handle watching this movie. They'll be like, there's no superhero in it and stuff. There's no Iron Man. There's no Thanos. I want to see Thanos in my movie. Right, Safi?
Whatever. I think there's stuff coming out for them.
Really? It's all a piece of shit.
I don't know. I've sent stuff to you that I've seen, but
Safi, I mean, come on. Like, let's look up, because let's just verify your stupid comments about comedies.
Well, that's why I picked it out.
1930s comedies. Let's see if in the first... No. Oh, it is right there. What the hell?
Isn't that interesting?
These are the top 1930 comedy picks. And that one was pretty good. That was a comedy. Why in the hell is that movie? What the hell? I could understand Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That's a comedy. Duck Soup is a comedy. I mean, you got classic comedies. Reefer Madness is hilarious. Even though it doesn't want to be hilarious. They're trying to tell you that marijuana is bad. And, people just laugh at those fucking retards. Oh, what do you think, Safi? I mean, well, what that would have been a good month, though, is like, let's try to just focus on comedies from the 30s and see, like, what are like the funniest ones that we can find. Like, what are the funniest, like, or which director or which actor was the best at making 1930s comedies? Because, like, I mean, you got Groucho Marx movies, you got Three Stooges and shit. You got Little Rascals. Safi refuses to watch Little Rascals.
I'm not watching that.
She's not a fan of Our Gang. As you guys know, I am actually a part of Our Gang.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What do you think of that, Safi?
You're full of bullshit, because you're not.
Yeah, I am.
No.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, anyway. So now you see.
Now you see. Why are you so silent, Safi?
Because
okay?
I think it's funny.
What do you want to stare at Jean Arthur? Here you go.
I think it's funny.
There you go.
Make fun of something you know nothing about.
There you go.
And then you make fun of all these other people who don't know certain things.
Let's do Jean Arthur month.
No, let's not.
Why? We know what you feel about her.
She's in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah.
She plays the love interest for Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
Interesting.
She was in a lot of stuff. I bet you'd like to watch all of it, wouldn't you?
No, thanks.
You can see every movie. Every one.
You've got to think, though, that's an era in time where people were struggling like crazy.
Oh, people are struggling to hear you on the review.
People are struggling during this time, and so the movies are going to be oriented in a certain way.
Well, that just makes this movie even worse, because it's like, if it didn't make me laugh at all, like, what were these poor hungry people thinking, like, after they spent money to see this movie and it's not making them laugh?
I don't know, Marco. You pay a dime.
That doesn't matter, Safi. A dime is a dime. It's the 30s.
Yeah, I know.
Damn, Safi. That's some fucked up shit. You're like looking at.
Be able to watch
you're
it on a VCR
you're
one
like-
day, or
you're-
stream it online.
you're looking at those characters from the Grapes of Wrath, and you go up to them and you say, "Well, why can't you guys just buy some food? It's just a dime." Like, fuck you.
Okay, Marco, you're just trying to make fun of me as
What do you-
usual.
What do you mean?
So, whatever. So, basically, I don't know what to give. I have to think about it. Do you have your food review?
Yeah, of course I do. No. Oh, yeah, I do. I have it. Or do I? I mean, what would you give Jean Arthur? You know, your
No,
your
I
little
give the movie
obsession.
something.
Oh. What about
I
Jean?
don't know. I guess I'd give it a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich.
you
Because
don't
he
you don't
was
eat those
simple.
anymore.
He was simple, and this was what was funny about this. This is a small town in New York. Is it supposed to Medford Falls supposed to be in New York?
I thought it was Mandrake Falls.
Mandrake Falls, you're
Oh.
right. It is Mandrake Falls.
Yeah.
And we were talking about New York City, and the pace of life was like just complete the opposite. From the people in Medford Falls, Mandrake Falls, to the people in New York City. I mean, even when they talked, they made them talk. They were like, blah, 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 blah. We're in a big hurry. We got to get things done right now, you know. And Mandrake Falls, it was just the opposite. I mean, you could see that. I thought that was interesting, too, how they showed that without being too obvious about it. And, you know, he managed to adjust. And I don't think I've seen Gary Cooper in a movie.
I haven't. I've never seen him before, but for some reason he's kind of familiar to me. Like he feels familiar. Like, I guess it's just because he's the leading man type.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything I've ever seen him in. I mean, he's very famous. You hear about him. But I've never, this is the first time I've seen him in anything. I thought he did an excellent job.
Yeah. Well, he's not as interesting as Jimmy Stewart, though. Jimmy Stewart is like a weirdo.
Well, I think Jimmy Stewart is like a real small town, Midwestern guy. And I think maybe Gary Cooper might have been more East Coast.
Can you do like a Jimmy Stewart impression?
No, I can't.
I'm Jimmy Stewart. I'm just a weird guy. That's Jimmy Stewart, Safi. What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
Weird.
I've never done that was my first try. Safi.
Okay.
I can't do a Gary Cooper impression.
Well, it's interesting
I don't want this money. I don't need it.
that Jimmy Stewart was not in this movie, but he's been in those others. Like he went to Mr. What is it? Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
And I think that's a very good movie. Very good movie. But this movie, I would give it every week I make grilled cheeses.
Yeah, he does, and I haven't had them, but I could see the way they look. They look perfect.
And there's this Halloween store near here, and it's called Foy's. And near Foy's, there's this diner. And when I was a kid, when we would go to Foy's, we might go to the diner for lunch, and they had like this little grilled cheese sandwich that I would get. And that's kind of what this movie reminds me of. It's like it's a grilled cheese sandwich of a movie, you know.
Yeah. See, so he gives us a sandwich, and so do I. It's just that kind of a movie.
It's a good movie, and there's no denying that. Except
it's not grandiose.
It's not a comedy.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Where's the comedy, Safi? Where's the funny stuff?
Marco. But anyway, it's adequate enough and good enough to watch, and that's it. So, and it was nice to see Gary Cooper who I've never seen in anything before. It was nice to see him in a movie.
And Jean Arthur, of course, you like seeing her.
Oh, God.
A lot.
Marco, get off of it.
She probably doesn't have any, like, I don't know, Safi, you have to look. You'll have to look through all of them.
Okay, Marco.
To find,
all right.
to find your favorite moments.
So, I don't
Like,
think there's much else to say
the message of Frank Capra's movies, in fact, if you really think about it, the message is that you don't need money, but you need Jean Arthur.
No,
Right, Safi? Right? That's the message. Every movie.
No, Marco.
The guy's got to get with her. He needs Jean
Not in every
Arthur.
movie. She wasn't in It's a Wonderful Life.
And both these movies that we watched and discussed, it's like, you don't need money, but you need Jean. You need Jean.
Okay, Marco, that's enough.
It's true.
So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers.
Ow.
And we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.